updates on Steph that you can report to us?
Well, he's in the concussion protocol. CT scan came back negative, so still a serious injury, unfortunate incident, but I think he'll be fine. But he has to go through the protocol, and he's had a few over the course of time, so that's going to play into it as well. We'll just be extra careful, and we wish him a speedy recovery.
What was it like to have him here today?
Yeah. Well, he's a tough kid. I was texting back and forth with him yesterday. I said, take your time, do what the doctors tell you, do. He goes, nah, coach, I'm going to come in. And that's leadership. He didn't have to come in. He wanted to let all of us know that he was fine. And that's just, again, part of, who Steph is, what he's about. I say tough kid a lot, but I know that he works extremely hard. The goalkeepers always work hard, and he's a great leader.
What was his energy like today? How is he? What was his spirits like?
Spirits were good. I mean, he gets along with all of his teammates, and it was uplifting, to have him in the building. The players fed off some of that energy in the film session today, so it was good.
Is it possible to even put like a timeline on it, or is it sort of one of those things you literally just take it every week?
There are certain steps that he has to, get through. It could take some guys, I think the minimum is 7 days. Not sure about that, Jeremiah. Don't quote me on that, but there's a minimum amount of days, and then it can stretch on, as long as it takes to get the athlete healthy again.
But I think it's fair to say, by what I'm hearing from you, that you guys could be more cautious than the protocol because of the history and maybe the type of impact that it was on him?
I think we're always cautious with all of our players, with all of the injuries that we sustain. I think players' health is paramount. But, guys are who they are, and they want to come back early, and they might try and push boundaries, and we have to do a good job protecting them from themselves, and it's give and take, it's conversations, it's making sure we really adhere to the protocol. But I think we did a good job with Christian's, issues with his concussions. We'll do a good job with Steph's. I'm very proud of the fact that, Sheila and Scott and our medical team, when the incident happened, I thought that was first class. I thought they were perfect. They actually were talking about that this morning and even trying to find ways that what did we do wrong? How could we get it even better? I don't think they did anything wrong, but, Steph was very appreciative of their expertise, and so am I, because I think we handled it really well.
And mentally, how is the group doing? How are you doing, beyond, that moment?
They're like my kids. I'm doing better. I wish we would have scored the second goal, but, other than that, we're doing okay.
Ryan, going back to the game, how do you like the way your team adjusted in several places? You talked about them starting the second half, pressing up in the first 20 minutes.
We rewatched it. There were certain things that we accomplished and did well the first 12 to 14 minutes of the game, and then they got on top of us. It was a combination. I was trying to look for trends. Was it just sloppy touches? Was there anything tactical? Was there, certain players, all that sort of stuff. But it was a combination of things, and look, they're a good team. So we kind of revisited some of the things that we wanted to accomplish, made some tweaks at halftime, and they came out in halftime and, played well for that 25 minutes. I thought we're on top of them.
I'm sorry, Brian. I'm dying to ask this question about Obed. Obed makes the tackle, and then you recycle 14 passes on that goal.
He gave the ball away. Yeah, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy that he gave the ball away.
So, are you happy?
Yeah.
But just
everybody makes mistakes. It's how you react to them. That's what you want to see.
Control the controllables, as you would say.
Well, he's doing his job.
Can you talk about his ability now to read the game, just in terms of defensively and also offensively to turn the play?
He's got a lot of experience. He's got 100-plus games in MLS. He's played in CONCACAF games. He's going to get more call-ups for his national team. I mean, he's grasping the bigger picture, the tactics. I think he and Christian, again, are tactically very sound players. in the middle of the field for us. I think it helps having, growing up with JP kind of in that sense, and having Christian now come. Obed's had some good mentors, so he's doing great.
Ryan Kemp came on, and also obviously Jordan. How can you assess that? I know that after a while,
The short cameo. The game was dysfunctional. There were some stoppages. They had some injuries. The last 15 minutes weren't fluid.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say on that play, it obviously ends ideally the way you want it to. You have a lot of positives in the play. There was also a moment early on in it.
Play you're talking about?
The goal.
Our goal.
Your goal.
Yeah.
There's a moment after the turnover where Nuhu ends up with the ball and he has a chance to play Christian into the middle, kind of keep the ball moving forward. And instead, you guys end up recycling it, and it ends up working its way back, and you end up scoring. But I also thought it was maybe illustrative of how, even though you guys create some of these turnovers high up the field, you don't always turn those into scoring opportunities immediately. And I'm curious if that is by design or if that's something that you want to get better at.
We give it to them like this because those are player decisions. Whenever, I even say this, as you are defending, because vision is the key. You can't make a good decision unless you see the field. So even as you're defending, I know where Albert Rusnak is. Even as I'm defending, I know that Jesus is here or Masowski, so that when the ball comes to me, my first pass can be forward. Then it becomes an option or a decision. If I only see one thing, I win the ball, I'm facing this direction, and I can only see a negative pass in Jackson, then I'm missing out on half the game up here. So those are the steps that we say. We always want to play forward first when you can, then out of the recovery zone, because teams counter press. So you win possession of the ball, you got to get to the opposite side of the field. And then last resort is always to keep possession and try and extend your possessions.
Then later in the game, once you take out Albert, does Ferreira kind of slide there on that 10 position? Is there something that you want to see that you were curious of? Or?
No, I had to pick between the two of them. It was hot. Everybody was putting the effort in. I didn't take Albert out for anything, just that, I thought we needed some fresh legs.
And obviously not something that maybe you want to key on, but does it concern you at all, regardless of the circumstantial type of yellows and double yellows that you've gotten, the 3 games in a row you gotten a player suspended?
It's always concerning, but players have to learn to play with yellow cards. It happens all the time. I thought in this case Kalani's was a little soft. I watched it on different angles. I was a little more forceful after the game. Look, I could see why the referee did it, because it kind of stopped one of their, attacks, but he was falling over before, he was anticipating the contact. And so is that egregious? No. The other ones, Jonathan Bell, no, he was lunging in for a late, they're all different. So there's no real set scale, but the learning curve there is, earlier in the year, Reed playing on 2 yellows where maybe I should have taken him out. So there's different learning points to each situation.
Probably a question for Craig, but there's a report that Obed's been exercised for next season. Any confirmation of that?
That's definitely Craig. Look, we'd like to have the kid around here for a long time, but we know that's probably not going to happen. But until it happens, until there's other rumors about Tigres with a $10 million. There's a lot of rumors that fly out there. Some on certain sites and people reporting stuff, and that's just part of the nature of the business. And we deal with it. Craig will tell you, he's very transparent. He'll let you know if there's anything concrete.
Can you give any other injury updates on Yamar and Kim and anyone else that might be working their way back?
Yamar and Kim Key are in full training, but again, a little bit of caution there with both of them. Is it too soon for Kansas City? We'll make that determination later in the week, see how they recover, and then, if it's not Kansas City, then they're getting closer.
How was the flow of practice without, your captain out there today?
It was fine. We have a bunch of good professionals. They understand that injuries happen. Look, we lost JP the other day. That was a big blow, but they're able to respond. It's a tough group.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
you.
Appreciate you.